Hello, brothers and sisters, and welcome to day 22 of the Chronological Read Through the Bible. Now, you can pick up any time along the way of these reads. Today we're starting from chapter 12 through chapter 14, so just two short chapters. And I do have to back up. I did not really cover this so much yesterday. I know that you would have had it in your reading of chapter 11. And so, again, picking up with Job's three friends who were there to comfort him the first 7 days, and they should have continued comforting him, just sitting there listening to him or praying for him. But instead, they began to offer their advice. This is why all of this has befell you. Why all of these events are taking place. And just to remind you of what Job lost, he lost all of his livestock. He lost his sons and his daughters, and then he loses his own health, and a great fiery arrow put into him is that his own wife does not support him and accuses him. And he finds himself sitting in the ash heap, taking an old broken piece of pottery and scraping the boils and wounds which cover his body from head to toe. And his three friends, who should be there to support him, who should be there to encourage him, end up accusing him. At this point, by the time we come to chapter 12, all three friends have basically said to Job, this is your fault. You have done something. There is some sin in your life which has brought all of this upon you. Wow. And Job has assured them there is nothing in his life that has brought all of these events upon him. And Zophar is the worst. You would think that he would have noticed what the other friends were accusing Job of. He would have picked up on how Job had responded to each of the other two friends before Zophar speaks. But no, he gets worse. And basically he comes out saying that, Job, your intelligence is that of a donkey. That he basically just starts saying he's the wisest and he knows best, and that Job is so much below him. And where is this coming from? And I think that it's self-righteousness on the part especially of Zophar, but I think of the other friends, they're like thinking, I think there's this concept, and again, this is another one that I have witnessed many, many times. I think there's this mindset of all of a sudden the three friends are thinking, we always thought that Job was a little bit better in having a closer relationship with God than us. But now, when we see what's happening to him, and that's not happening to us, we now realize, he must not have been the good man of God that we thought he was, because look at what's happened to him, and that's not happening to us. And I think that Zophar, it's sort of like, I thought Job was an intelligent man, but now I clearly am smarter than Job. You see this so much in everyday life that it's painful. And when you sit down to read through the book of Job, and as I said, I know this is a difficult book, and it's difficult because so many people find themselves right in that position where it's like, well, if something bad's happening to somebody, they've clearly done something to bring it on to themselves. Now, as I said, doesn't mean that that's never the case. That oftentimes is the case. There is the scripture that it's basically saying we reap what we sow. However, that verse of scripture is really speaking of when we sow good, we reap good. Now, I'm not to get into a prosperity gospel, but if you're going out and you're encouraging people, if you're speaking good of people around you, you're going to find that they will speak good of you. You will find that they will be encouragers of you. If you're out encouraging others around you, eventually they will encourage you. You'll find a remarkable thing that if you go out and speak positive of people, you will not only see that that person will be lifted up, even though they may not have heard you speaking positive about them. When you have a positive outlook on the people around you, now I do believe it needs to be realistic, but when you have this positive outlook on people, you will start to notice that person's countenance lifted up. You will start to notice that person and your relationship being better. Now I do note, I say be realistic. I've had friends before who they viewed everything, everybody was great, and then they had an unrealistic approach to the life that they lived in, and oftentimes elevated people who shouldn't have been elevated. Side note, we'll get to that concept later in the scriptures. I just want to read Job's first words here of chapter 12 to show he's going to get a little sarcastic here, because Zophar's had this thing of, well, I'm intelligent and smarter than you, and Job responded, truly then, you are the people, and with you wisdom will die. So, he's saying, y'all are the smartest people, and when you pass away, when you die, that's the end of wisdom. But I have intelligence as well as you. I am not inferior to you. And who does not know such things as these? I am a joke to my friends, the one who called on God, and he answered him. The just and the blameless man is a joke. He's like saying, am I a joke to you? Is my suffering a joke to you? And I want to share with you, try to really have compassion for the suffering around you. I remember a number of years back when a great tornado cut across the state of Alabama, and the very next morning I had an appointment to meet with some friends at a local mall, and I had been overseas and just come back, so I had to make the most of the time that I had. And when we went to the mall, I was sitting at the food court in the mall waiting for my friends to arrive that day. And as I sat there, I always loved to just sit in the food court and watch people. And I used to go there to prepare my sermons because it would allow me to see the humanity of people. And as I watched people walking by, it was very clear there were those there at the mall who were there because their homes had been destroyed, and for a brief time they had nowhere to go. And you could see it on their face. You could tell they were just, their countenance, everything, it's like, woe is me. And yet then there were others who walked through there like nothing had even happened the day before. Like everything's just perfect and fine. And I would start to notice that whenever tragedy hit in certain situations, whether it was when I'm in Africa and watching a city literally at war, and on one street there's open machine gun fire, people running for cover, and it was amazing. I would go the next street over, just one block, probably less than 50 yards, and because there was no gunfire on that street and there was nobody running for cover, it was just business as usual. We encounter difficulties all the time, but not just our difficulties. There are people in this world who are suffering, and people who need comfort, people who need a listening ear. A very dear friend of mine said many years ago when I first got into ministry, he said that if I speak to people who have a broken heart, I'll always have a listening ear. And so really that if I'm listening to the brokenheartedness of people, they'll always be ready to listen to the words of God. So let's have that heart of compassion, and that can really only come about when we say, Lord, give me a heart for those who are hopeless. Give me a heart for those who are in pain. Job, he's going to go back and forth with, basically, God, I need you. God, I don't want you right here, right now. And you kind of see this shift going back and forth. Job's in tremendous pain. And his friends could have offered him comfort, but they only offered him more turmoil. We often think that God needs to give us all the answers, and He doesn't. God doesn't owe us anything. But God has revealed great things to us. Do not get tied up or caught up in the things which God has not revealed to us. And I want to read this verse. This is one of the verses that I've clinged to for many years, because we see a society where people are always upset of that, well, God's just not revealing everything to me. He doesn't have to. He's God, and He reveals to you what He desires to reveal to you and the things that you can handle. But Deuteronomy chapter 29, verse 29 is a great verse to memorize, and it will help you when you're in that turmoil of like, well, God, I just don't understand. Deuteronomy 29:29. The secret things belong to the Lord our God, but the things revealed belong to us and to our sons forever, that we may observe all the words of the law. So there's many things that God doesn't reveal to us, and we don't need to worry about those things. If He wants us to know about it, He will show it to us. Job, at this point, may not have really, and clearly he doesn't understand the reasons for his suffering. And God never really reveals to Job the reason for his suffering. Not that we know of from Scripture. I just have to be the person who God's called me to be. And my first concern is my own personal walk with Him. It's not even my ministry. It's my personal walk with Him. If my personal walk with God is where it needs to be, then my ministry for the Lord will be where it needs to be as well. Brothers and sisters, I hope you're having a blessed day. Until tomorrow, God bless.